Okay, hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this background session on the public consultation on the ancillary risk indicators in the IIS's global monitoring exercise. So the objective of today's background session is to briefly go through this public consultation and to answer any questions that you may have already now before you submit your responses to this public consultation by the 3rd of February next year. So kindly note that this session is being recorded and we will publish this recording together with the slides on the IAIS website. So my name is Nicola, I am with the IAIS Secretariat, and today we are joined by Dieter Hendricks, who is the chair of our IAIS Macroprudential Committee, Daniel Weyand, who is the chair of our Macroprudential Monitoring Working Group, and my colleague Roberto Ottolini, who is also with the IAIS Secretariat. So in today's session, we'll follow the following structure. So we will start with providing a bit of background that will cover the holistic framework, the global monitoring exercise, and the individual insurer monitoring. We will then dive into the public consultation document, following the outline and the summary of the chapters. And we will end by providing details on the consultation process. So in terms of timeline, questions for you as stakeholders, and how to submit your responses. And then at the end, we will have time to answer any questions you may have. So with that, let me hand over to the IAIS Macroprudential Committee Chair, Dieter Hendricks. Over to you, Dieter.
Thank you, Nicola, and welcome also to everyone from my side to this public session on ancillary indicators. As Nicola said, let me give you a little bit some background information on where to situate this work in the scope of IAIS, its mission. So for those of you that know it already, we have in October 2024 published a new strategic plan for the upcoming period of 2025 until 2029. And this strategic plan at the level of IAIS sets a strategic direction for our association over the next 5 years. Important to know here is that we have defined 4 core objectives. And one of those 4 objectives remains the monitoring and the response to the key risk and trends of the insurance sector. And we know that we try to achieve this core objective through, amongst others, the holistic framework and in particular the global monitoring exercise. We also know that within the 2025-2029 period, we will go through a period where there will be a shift from standard setting to the maintenance and refinements of these standards. So this you can see also reflected in the strategic plan that was published. Now, for today, we will of course focus on our first core objective, which is and remains the assessing of the key risks and trends of the insurance sector. As I said, we do this through the tool of the holistic framework, and within the holistic framework, of course, the global monitoring exercise is our key assessment tool to follow the key risk and trends across the global insurance sector. The global monitoring exercise constitutes 2 data collections. On the first hand, we collect data from individual insurers. Today we have approximately 60 insurance groups, so these are the largest globally internationally active insurance groups that participate to this individual insurer monitoring exercise, and they represent also 19 jurisdictions. Next to the individual insurer monitoring, we also have the sector-wide monitoring. Here we have 26 IAIS members that meet the criteria, and we have 53 jurisdictions that participate in at least one of the components of the sector-wide monitoring. All in all, this gives us a very good representation on global level in terms of our global monitoring exercise. We cover more than 90% of the global gross written premium, and let me repeat the importance of sending in the data both by yourself, the individual insurers, but also by the participating jurisdictions, by the participating supervisors that help us to get to a represented sample of data. And good quality data here for us leads to a better analysis and in the end also a better outcome in terms of our supervisory response. We can go to the next slide. For a global monitoring exercise, and I hope this shouldn't be a surprise to you, we follow the same annual cycle determined by the same timeline next year, every year, which means that in March, we usually launch a data collection package and we organize a workshop with all the insurers and all the supervisors that should participate to this data collection. The period from May till June is then used at the level of IAS to perform analysis on the data that is submitted and to identify the scope of insurers and teams that we want to put into the scope of the collective discussion. The scope of the collective discussion is then organized in September, where together with the IAS Executive Committee, we look at the key risks and identify trends at the global insurance sector, and we try to determine and to align our supervisory response to these identified risk and trends. Last but not least, at the end of the cycle, we also foresee a reporting to all the participants, to the FSB, and also to the public via our GMAR, our Global Insurance Market Report. Go to the next slide. Within the global monitoring exercise, a big component, of course, is the individual insurer monitoring, where we try to assess systemic risks from an individual insurer's distress or disorderly failure. Here, for this purpose, we have developed an assessment methodology. I think the assessment methodology should be familiar to most of you. We have developed 5 systemic risk categories and we use 13 indicators that altogether end up in a calculation of a systemic risk score, a score that is produced for each of the individual insurers that participate to the exercise. This methodology is characterized by a 3-year review cycle, and we come up to an important year where next year in 2025, we end another 3-year period. So we will look again into the opportunity of whether or not to refine certain elements within the methodology that we use. This refinement would then lead to another methodology that should be stable for the 3 years that follow the year 2025. Next to the indicators that we look at and that we use to directly score the total systemic risk score, we also have ancillary indicators. The most known ancillary indicator will probably be the liquidity metrics, but we are also developing a whole other set of indicators, which is those indicators that we currently are consulting. And these indicators target credit risk, derivatives, reinsurance, mark-to-model assets, and include as well potential revisions to the liquidity metrics I just mentioned. We have also a very small part where we try to follow up and target emerging risks. And for this, we have developed a tool which we call a GMAR Special Topic Reports. We have done such reports on climate risk, on cyber risk, and we are currently working on a report which aims to discuss protection gaps and the financial stability implications of protection gaps in the upcoming period. So today we are here to discuss with you the ongoing public consultation on the ancillary indicators, and to give you a more detailed view of the public consultation document, I'll pass the floor to Daniel Wyand, the chair of our macroprudential monitoring group. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dieter, and welcome to everyone who's attending also from my side. Yes, we, as Dieter said, we have some ancillary indicators under construction at the moment, and we seek your input both on the way we define them and on some background information on how to calibrate them in certain cases. So in the document, apart from the introduction, we have those 4 ancillary indicators on credit risk, derivatives, reinsurance, and mark-to-model assets that we propose, with several metrics. Each of those ancillary indicators consists of several metrics. In addition, we also propose some amendments to the liquidity metrics, where we seek your input and potentially background information on how to calibrate that. Each of those indicators consists of some description of the objective, including the transmission channels to systemic risks, and the definition of the metrics consisting of that, and some information on the results of the Global Monitoring Exercise 2024, where we already collected certain data elements that will be needed for those ancillary indicators. Each of those indicators also has a set of questions that we will get to those questions and how to deal with them later on. So as an introduction, what I want to highlight here is that not only the liquidity metrics as our existing ancillary indicator, but also the proposed ancillary indicators are not meant to affect the total individual quantitative score of an insurer. Rather, they should provide additional context that helps us assess systemic risk in general or the situation of the insurers in scope. The ancillary indicators are in general not meant as a binding requirement, but really only as a monitoring tool. This is very much emphasized also for the liquidity metrics, which are not meant to be a binding requirement. The feedback we seek here now is on the 4 new ancillary indicators and on the revisions to the liquidity metrics. On the general setup of the global monitoring exercise, as Dieter mentioned, we will have a 3-year review cycle coming up next year, where we will also have a public consultation. So the first ancillary indicator that we propose is on credit risk, where we see some risk from asset liquidation or also from counterparty risk increases. Here we propose to have 5 metrics. On the one hand, based on the quality of the investment, so we want to collect the investments at or below investment grade. And on the other hand, the simulated credit loss, which is based on a factor approach. This divided by several different denominators should give us some information on the relevance of credit risk for individual insurers or overall. Just as a remark here, all those metrics could be used in parallel, or we could decide to remove certain of those metrics from the total set. This also depends on your input that we receive via the public consultation. This, we can move to the next one. The ancillary indicator on derivatives. Here we have 12 different metrics. Clearly, derivatives is an important part that increases interconnectedness also with the banking sector. Could also increase counterparty risk or influence counterparty risk. It has certainly an effect on the liquidity risk of an insurer and could also impact the leverage. So what we have here is very different viewpoints that we try to capture with those different metrics. On the one hand, the relative use of derivatives by an insurer. On the other hand, the potential future exposure, so the potential effect that derivatives could have in theory, the materiality of over-the-counter derivatives, combined also with central clearing information, and some information that is on margin calls and collateral calls that would also be relevant from a liquidity point of view. And we also have proposed to use information on the derivatives used for hedging, those that are not used for hedging, of course, for further information. On reinsurance, there it's also, we have 5 different metrics. Reinsurance is an important part of the interconnectedness in the insurance sector itself, and it might influence leverage and complexity of the insurance contracts. It has a certain effect on the counterparty risk, but also it must be seen that reinsurance is very, very relevant for the provision of critical services. So in order to capture those different aspects, we want to collect, on the one hand, information on reliance on reinsurers. So how much do insurers rely on external reinsurance? Information on the cross-border life reinsurance part, which was a main part of the general themes of the collective discussion, which was also presented in the GMA this year and last year. And the third part would be to try to assess the reinsurers' market shares based on their assumed premiums. On the mark-to-model assets, we have seen that level 3 assets in general have a major effect on the systemic risk scores of insurers, or can have a major effect. And in order to better assess the situation of assets that could be level 3 assets if held at fair value, but might at the moment not be held at fair value yet, we suggest this adjusted mark-to-model assets indicator. This should collect, as I said, information on not only level 3 assets, but only assets that could be level 3, or even assets like commercial mortgages and residential mortgages that are not included in the above, so not included in level 3 assets, but held as level 2 assets, for example. On the liquidity metrics, we want to mainly gather your input on the question of the correlation between different stresses. The liquidity metrics calculation currently assumes an immediate stress at the same time on all different aspects of the stress, so on all aspects of the liability and asset side. This could be seen as too conservative, and we might see some of those stresses might not be 100% correlated in reality. And we seek your input not only on whether those stresses should not be 100% correlated, but also on how to calibrate such a correlation factor in case we should go below the 100%. One major example where we would seek your input is on the correlation between the life stress and the P&C stress. In general, we seek your feedback on the consultation document by Monday, 3rd of February next year. And we will consider this input that we received during via this consultation also for next year's global assessment monitoring methodology review that, as I said, will be consulted upon next year in addition. So the outcome of this consultation will be published at the end of 2025 together with the new methodology. With this, I hand over to Roberto from the Secretariat to tell you a bit more about the consultation process. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel, and a warm welcome also from my side, and thank you for attending this webinar. In the next few slides, I would like to give you an overview on the consultation process and give you some practical tips on how to submit your responses. First of all, where to find the questions for stakeholders that we are consulting on. Questions are available in the main paper, in the PDF, in light blue boxes at the end of each chapter. In total, you will see 25 questions, and we are seeking your input on the definitions of the proposed metrics, but also on the parameters for the calculation of certain metrics, and then additionally on the feasibility of reporting for the metrics that were required to collect new data items. And finally, you will find also some sort of catch-all questions where you are invited to provide general comments on the topics that we are consulting on. On the IIS website, you will also see a separate document where all the 25 questions are summarized and available all together in one place. How to provide responses. On the IIS website, you will see a link to a consultation tool where you will be able to provide your input. It is very important to use the tool because we will only be able to consolidate responses that we receive through the tool. So I invite you to have a look on the website, on the consultation page, and it should be straightforward to access this tool. And here in this slide, you will see the entry page of the tool. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to reach out to the Secretariat. In terms of next steps, the main date to remember is 3rd of February 2025. This is the deadline where you are invited to respond to the public consultation. Next steps will be in March next year, the launch of the GME 2025 data collection. And then, as my colleagues said previously, we will also conduct the methodology review in the course of next year. So you can expect a public consultation on that in mid-2025. And towards the end of the year, you can also expect the publication of the updated GME methodology, including the resolution of comments for the ancillary indicators and the publication of the final ancillary indicators document. So these are the next steps that I would like to summarize. With that, I can give the floor back to Dieter for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Roberto, and Daniel as well. So I don't know to which extent you may have questions for us at this stage, but I would like to give you the opportunity to ask you your questions, if you would have any, in terms of understanding the goal of the public consultation, or whether you already have some questions for us that may help you to increase your understanding or on one or the other element that is put up for consultation. So I'll stop here. I suggest you raise your virtual hand. We'll keep an eye on that, and the Secretariat can unmute you so that you're able to speak to us. I see already a first hand up from Alexandru Negruza. So if we can unmute him, then we're ready to listen.
Yes, hello, dear colleagues. Thank you for your presentation. And I have got a lot of questions. It's for our overall understanding of the topic. So my first question is, I saw in different countries in the EU, it wasn't practiced implementing of a domestic systemically important insurers, but it was only global systemically important insurers at that time at which you were identifying them. So my question is why in other countries they do not practice insurance at the domestic level, and why was it only at global level, and why it was refused to use at global level anymore?
Whatever we have set up as a process in terms of individual insurer monitoring, as I said before, is done here at global level, and it aims at following the potential surveillance of systemic risk at individual insurer level. So the methodology that we have developed is a methodology that serves us to do this at global level. Whether or not and to which extent national supervisors have a similar or another process to identify insurers or the systemic relevance of insurers at the domestic level is up to those supervisors to decide and to implement that. For that, I would refer to ICP 24, which gives you a high level principles and guidance on how that could be done. As well, there is also an application paper on ICP 24 on macroprudential supervision that gives background information on that. It is, however, up to the national supervisor to see whether or not that is relevant at national level and which methodology that he or she would like to apply. So this could recycle certain elements that is used in the methodology at global level, but doesn't necessarily need to be like that. So that really depends on your local national situation and whether you feel the need to do that. So this, at least, what we should bear in mind is that the methodology that was developed here at global level serves mainly to, as I said, to follow up potential systemic risk at individual insurer level. And any other uses of that methodology, that is purely to the discretionary decision of national supervisors. I don't know if the colleagues would like to add something to that.
Thank you, Dieter. Just to add, the methodology is not meant to decide upon any globally systemically important insurer, as that designation of such a GSI has been stopped by the FSB. So they do not designate such insurers anymore. And we therefore do not use this methodology in that respect.
Okay, thank you. And also, I would like to ask, do you, when we are providing this information for global for this exercise, it should be for all the insurance companies, or it should be for the biggest companies in the country? And if for the biggest, how we decide that this is enough big and this one not?
Well, the insurers that participate into the individual insurer monitoring are identified through a series of criteria which are fixed. So you can find that on slide 6 of the presentation. Maybe we can go back to that slide 6. It would be useful. So in total, we have already identified around 60 insurance groups worldwide. So those are really the biggest insurance groups. You see the criteria highlighted there under footnote 1 that participate to this exercise. So each year, of course, we verify which groups fall under the criteria, and those groups will get an invitation to participate into the individual insurer monitoring.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anything else we can help you with? Yes, I see a next question from Tobias Wassmann. Please, Tobias.
Hello, this is Tobias Wassmann from Swiss Re. Many thanks to the colleagues from the EAS for setting up this call in general as a platform for exchange. This is much appreciated, and many thanks as well for the explanations provided on the ongoing public consultations. I would have some questions, like a general one. Will the ancillary indicators be made transparent to the participating insurers, for instance, by implementing them in a dashboard in the IAM template? And then two questions specifically on the new ancillary indicator on reinsurance. What precisely do you mean by provision of critical services, and to what proposed indicator is this transmission channel linked? And finally, to what transmission channel is the reinsurer market share indicator RE3.A linked?
Thank you. I hope I noted down all of your questions. In terms of transparency, at least we have the participating insurance reports, but I'll let that answer by the secretariat as well. I can give you at least insight into that. So Nicola or Roberto, if you can help me out.
Yeah, I can take this one. Yes, certainly. We once the final decision will be made on the ancillary indicators, we will certainly include them into the participating insurer reports. And in terms of the upcoming data collections, we can try to include the calculated ancillary indicators, but we will certainly do that once the final decisions will be made. So I hope this clarifies.
Thank you, Roberto. And for your questions on the reinsurance indicator, maybe it's useful if you go to slide 15 for that one. Yes, here we are. I don't know, Daniel or Roberto, if you can give some extra background in terms of the critical services we've highlighted here as in the question, and in terms of why we, for instance, look also at the market share of reinsurance, why that is important for us. Don't forget also that the broader philosophy behind the global monitoring exercise is also to monitor certain key risks and trends. And reinsurance market share for us is a very important element to have a monitoring on, to see how this evolves through time. So that is also something to keep in the back of our minds. I don't know, Daniel, Roberto, if you can help out with giving some flavor here as well.
Yes, I can try to start with that. First of all, on the provision of critical service, I think also with respect to the upcoming GMA special topic, where we look at NatCat protection gaps, such protection gaps could also be there because of a lack of reinsurance. So reinsurance is clearly necessary in order to address those concerns that exist around the world with NatCat protection gaps. And this is something which therefore also needs to be monitored in a way that those provisions of critical service by reinsurers is not decreasing over time or is not influencing that macroprudential concern. On the particular metric 3.A, where we try to combine the view from the individual insurer monitoring on the assumed premiums by an individual insurance group and the sector-wide monitoring gross reinsurance premiums in general. There we simply want to see whether there's any undue market concentration in any reinsurer, whether that shifts over time. It's not something where we currently see any undue concentration, but that doesn't mean it's not worth monitoring this over time and seeing whether the development remains as it is. Roberto, you can please add.
Yeah, nothing to add from my side. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Daniel and Roberto. Tobias, was that sufficient as a background, or do you need more information?
Thanks a lot. This is very helpful. Then in respect to 3.A, the denominator, would that be the a gross reinsurance premium assumed within a jurisdiction as it comes from the sector-wide monitoring, or of all jurisdictions participating in the sector-wide monitoring?
It would be the sum of all jurisdictions.
Understood.
Okay, do we have any other questions? No? Give you a last chance to change your mind in case you would still have questions. Okay, seems not. I hope it means that we have been quite clear on what is expected from this public consultation. As said by Nicola in the beginning, you will also get access to the registration of the public consultation webinar that we're having right now. So this will be published and everyone will have access. You can have another view at it if you still have questions, or if you want to go back to the explanation of one or the other part. I guess if there are no questions left, we can close here earlier than foreseen. I would like to thank you all for your participation, and we hope to get your contributions in writing by the timeline that was foreseen, and we'll make sure to take those into account when we go further into the development of these ancillary indicators in the course of 2025. Thank you very much for participating today, and I hope you find it useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.